Students, in lesson 5.6, we are going to be exploring dividing decimals. So our essential question to guide our learning for today's lesson is, how can you place the decimal point in the quotient? And remember, the quotient is the answer in a division problem. So we're going to start off at the top. It says when you multiply both divisor and dividend by the same power of 10, the quotient stays the same. So we can see our divisor here is 6 and our dividend is 3. If you multiply that by 10, you would get 60. If you multiply 3 by 10, you get 30. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. 60 divided by 3 is 2. You can always check using inverse operations. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 30 is 6. Now when you multiply 60 by 10, you would get 600. You multiply 30 by 10, you get 300. Remember, 600 divided by 300 would give you 2. So remember, if you multiply both the divisor and the dividend by the same power of 10, our quotient stayed the same. Now we're going to check on the other side to see if this still stays true. These, boys and girls, were increasing powers of 10, right? Because we first had the first power of 10, and then we had the second power of 10. But now these are decreasing powers of 10 on this other side. So let's analyze that. So if we multiply 120 by 1/10, we would get 12, and we lose a decimal place. Multiply 30 by 1/10, we get 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and that's the same as 120 divided by 30 is equal to 4. Now, if we take 12 and we multiply by 1/10, we lose another decimal place. So we have 1 and 2/10 divided by 3/10. Because remember, whatever you do to the divisor, you must do the same thing to the dividend. So these are just some patterns just that you should analyze. So we're going to start with the unlock the problem real world. In the blue box, it says, what do you multiply hundreds by to get a whole number? That's going to be something we're going to keep in mind, boys and girls. If you think about the word hundredths, we're talking about hundredths. What would you have to multiply a hundredth by to get a whole number? 100. That's correct, boys and girls. If you multiply 100th times 100, you would get 1, which is a whole number. So Matthew has 72 cents. He wants to buy stickers that cost 8 cents each. How many stickers can he buy? So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the dividend and the divisor by the power of 10. That makes the divisor a whole number. So right off the back, this is our divisor, boys and girls, and we need to make that a whole number. So now when we look at that, we know that to make the divisor a whole number, we'd have to gain 2 decimal places. So that would be our second power of 10, which is like saying 10 times 10, which is saying 100. So if we multiply 100, we get 8. And then we're going to multiply the same exact number, boys and girls, to the dividend. So we have 72 hundredths multiplied by 100, we get 72. Now, if we have 72 divided by 8, we can figure that would be 9 stickers. So Matthew can buy 9 stickers. So basically what we're doing, boys and girls, is we're taking a decimal and we are using compatible numbers in our understanding of powers and multiples of 10 to help us inform this. So, boys and girls, it says, explain how you know that the quotient 72 hundredths divided by 8 hundredths is equal to the quotient of 72 divided by 8. So, boys and girls, we know that both the divisor and dividend were multiplied by 100. So the quotients are equal. And that's what we started off working with when we first did the lesson. Now, boys and girls, we're going to try this. we look and we see we have 56 hundredths divided by 7 tenths. So right off the back, the divisor is the really important number, boys and girls. We need to think the divisor, 7 tenths, needs to become a whole number. What would we multiply, which is a power of 10? So I'm going to put down the first power of 10, which is 10. The second power of 10, which is 100. Now, if we have 7 tenths, boys and girls, what whole number sounds like 7 tenths? That's correct. 10. So, boys and girls, if we multiply 7 tenths by 10, we would get the answer of 7. Now, boys and girls, remember, if we do it to the divisor, we must do the same thing to the dividend. So, if we multiply 56 hundredths by 10, we would gain 1 decimal place, and we would get 5 and 6 tenths. So now, boys and girls, what we would do is we would divide. So we have, and we just pretend, is this like 56 divided by 7? Which normally would give us 8. However, in this case, we know it's 5 and 6 tenths divided by 7, which would give us 8 tenths. And if we want to check using multiplication, boys and girls, we say 8 tenths multiplied by 7 is normally 56, but we know that we have 1 decimal place that we have to move in the product. So our answer would be 5 and 6 tenths. So we know our answer to be true. Remember, you can always check your answer by using multiplication because it is an inverse operation and it undoes division. Next, boys and girls, we have one more example, which says Sherry hikes on the Pacific Coast Trail. She plans to hike 3 7/200 miles. If she hikes at an average speed of 1 2/10 miles per hour, how long will she hike? Now, boys and girls, remember, we always circle our divisor first because that is what we are concerned with creating and making into a whole number because your divisor has to be a whole number. So when we look at that, we know if we multiply that by 10, we would get 12. Which is something we really, really, really like. And then if we do that for the divisor, we would have to do the same thing for the dividend. So our dividend would turn out to be 37 2/10. So, but for the second strategy, boys and girls, we're going to use estimation. So we are going to write down our problem, which is 3 7/200 divided by 1 2/10. If we're going to estimate, we're going to round to the nearest whole number. So we're going to circle our whole number, look next door. Well, we look next door and we see 7 is greater, so we are going to do 4 as our estimate. And we circle 1 and we look next door and we see 2, so we're going to divide by 1. So 4 divided by 1 would give us 4. So our estimate is 4. We're going to use that to make sure that our answer is reasonable because our answer should be around there. So step 1, it says multiply the divisor by a power of 10 to make the divisor a whole number, which we did up here already. And we knew that our multiple would be 10, and we got the answer of 12. And remember, the same number would have to apply to the dividend, so we got 37 2/10. Step 2, write the decimal point in the quotient above the decimal, right off the back. You want to make sure you have that there so you don't make any mistakes. And then step 3, we're going to divide. So 37 divided by 12 would be 3, and I'm going to put, does McDonald's sell burgers? To remind us. Multiply. 3 times 12 is 36. Subtract. 36 subtracted from 37 would be 1. We regroup the 2. 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract. We get 0. Nothing to bring down. So our answer would be 3 1/10, which if we check is really close to our estimate of 4. So Sherry will hike 3 1/10 hours. So boys and girls, remember when we're going to use estimation, we have to do some rounding to help us get there. And that's something that we've done pretty well in this lesson. So next we have two questions. It says, describe what happens to the decimal point in the divisor when the divisor and the dividend when you multiply by 10. So what we saw is when we multiplied by an increasing power of 10, each decimal point moves one place to the right because it is larger than it was before. Now number 3 says explain. How could you have used the estimate to place the decimal point? So what we could say is I could have used the estimate to place the decimal after the 3 to show 3 ones and 1/10. So now, boys and girls, we're going to try one more problem where we're going to incorporate our understanding of multiplication as the inverse operation of addition to affect our answer. So right off the bat, boys and girls, we see that we have to multiply 1400ths by 100. Now remember, the decimal's last name will give it away for what we need to do. So when we have that, we move our decimal places 2 places over, and now we have 14. So now, if we do that to our divisor, we must do the same thing to our dividend. So our new answer in there is 196 divided by 14. So now what we can do is we can divide normally, but we know that our answer really in the dividend is 196. So when we divide, sorry about that, boys and girls, we think 19 divided by 14 is 1. 1 times 14 is 14. 19 minus 4 is 5. We regroup the 6. 56 divided by 14 is 4. 4 times 14 is 56 with nothing left over. So what we're going to do, boys and girls, is we're going to check our answer. We took our original divisor, which was 1400ths, and we're going to multiply it by our quotient, which was 14. 4 times 4 is 16. We regroup the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus the regroup 1 is 5. Now we're going to do 10 times 4, which is 40, and then 1 times 1, which is 1, and now we're going to add up our partial products. 6 plus 0 is 6. 5 plus 4 is 9, plus the regroup 1. And now, boys and girls, we see there are 1, 2 decimal places in our first factor. There should be 2 decimal places in our last factor. 1, 2. And we can see, boys and girls, that because we multiplied the divisor and the dividend by 100, it just was easier for us to place the decimal point.